My name is Maury Voisey-Barlin. Back in the day I was Maury Barlin, and I am a founding member of Milk Crate Theatre, and we began in 1999. My roles, I had a number of roles. I was initially one of the workshop tutors, so we had acting classes that went into Edward Eagle Lodge, and where we began, and I ran the workshops, and I was one of the actors in the Forum show, so I was in the Forum Theatre show days.
Yeah, my name's Graeme Rhodes, and I have been with Milk Crate since 2000. I think I was, kind of one of the founding members, really. Different roles that I've had with Milk Crate over the time that it's been going is I started off as an actor. I was also brought on because of my sound, my relationship with sound and music. Facilitated workshops. I'm an actor and teacher.
Hi, I'm Margie, Breen, and I started with Milk Crate in 2004, and I heard about it through my friend Drew Fairley, who was one of the actors for Milk Crate, and he thought I'd like the company, and also they were looking for a director at the time.
In 1996, set up Darlinghurst Theatre Company, which kind of had its early days in 1992. It set up a drama school which funded that, and then Darlinghurst Theatre Company kind of officially kicked off in 96. And we were based at the Wayside Chapel. That's where we had our theatre. It was this crazy old theatre. But where we were running the drama classes was also a soup kitchen for homeless people. And we'd often get visits by, the local homeless people visiting us, dropping in saying g'day, and it was, whenever we do a performance, invariably it'd get interrupted by someone just walking straight out and doing their own little monologue. So we always had this we were always just, in amongst it with the local homeless community. We knew all their names and of the local people who used to frequent the soup kitchen in particular. There was always a feeling that we should, as a theatre company, take some social responsibility and not just do, our own kind of middle class problems and issues presented on stage. But we might do something, legitimate and respond to the neighbourhoods and the people who are in front of us and somehow connect. And as luck would have it, we had a visit from Jenny Trinker from what was South Sydney Council, which became City of Sydney Council, and there was an issue around Edward Eagle Lodge. And at Edward Eagle Lodge, lots of new residences had sprung up and expensive apartments, and they'd started to complain about homeless people out the front waiting at the Edward Eagle Lodge. They'd been there a long time, but there was a lot of kind of new community not liking the riffraff outside the front of the Edward Eagle Lodge, the so-called, And so Jenny proposed that we do a play about it and invite the locals to come and see it, and somehow that would miraculously change their opinion. And we'd all have a love fest. Yeah, so they had a bit of money, it wasn't much. And I thought rather than doing a play or trying to write a play, getting actors and performers to actually learn their lines was a problem anyway, let alone people who were non-actors, totally non-actors. And the idea was the participants would be, from that community, from Edward Eagle Lodge. And so the idea was let's look at some models around the place. We looked at Boal's Theatre of the Oppressed. And I proposed, in a meeting with Ruth Polly, who used to run Edward Eagle Lodge and the community programs there, and the boss there, and Jenny Trinker, and it was essentially, well, how about we spread this money across time, and why don't we do something totally improvised, and we'll do a version of that.
The job is to create a community and to bring the community together and to learn about each other. And I think what we did want to do was demystify a person that was seen in the street living rough, and we wanted to demystify our views towards them. We wanted to bring that together, and I think we achieved that. I felt like we did, and then as it progressed, you got to know people more and more, and you saw the world through their eyes, the difficulties with social services. You know, it's a struggle. So it was, as we said, Glenn Terry directing us, Ruth Polly coordinating it at Wesley Mission Edward Eager Lodge. Then there was Matt Stewart, who was the Joker figure at the time. There was Christabel Sved. I think she handled a lot of the writing of the show with Ruth. Then there was myself acting with Christabel, and Sam Keenan, who was also an actor but mostly a violin player. So he was brought in to do music. Fairly soon, I think after that, Graeme Rhodes stepped in, and he had a lot of musical talent. And Graeme was a magical addition to the company, to the group. I just think he shifted things in a very big way. He's a great actor.
Speaking from the point of view of like the workshops that I facilitate, I think it gives people a place, and using the forum of like theatre or acting, it gives people a chance to be themselves, and the power of just hanging out with people that are in a similar position or a similar boat. That on a very basic level also, people come together, like it's a really strong kind of sense of family. And some people have even said that through the years. We've had people, there was one woman die, she's dead now, but she used to say, "You're my family. Milk Crate are my family." You know? She didn't have a family.
So we arrived at the lodge, and the stories were gathered. Ruth Polly got the stories. Basically, she said, "Oh, there's a particular client of mine, and they've volunteered their story," and someone would volunteer their story that we'd kind of knock into a sort of a 20-minute episode, be, you know, section of their life, or, you know, something obviously around, you know, being homeless and circumstances and so on. And we'd do a kind of a, you know, rough drama based on that story. And of course, with Boal, the idea is you play it through once and then you play it through again. The second time, the audience can change the action and people can get up and participate. They can take over the roles and so on.
Well, it's because there was a sense of control. It was like a knife's edge, you know. It was really unpredictable. And we didn't know how people would perceive us. We didn't know whether they'd boo. We didn't know whether people would just think we're a bunch of tossers and our stories were meaningless. But there was a warmth that developed in the first 5 minutes. We did this silly exercise which was replaced by the Lodge News. I can't remember what the exercise was, us doing movement things. And we thought it was really dicky, but the audience really got into it. And they're saying, "Is that right? Is that what it looked like?" So we had to represent how they felt. And they're going, "No, nothing like that." and so I think we relaxed then, and I think the warmth came when we relaxed. I think that's what happened. But it just felt so unpredictable, and we didn't know what would happen. And once we got comfy with that, it was addictive.
But Margie Breen, we put her on as essentially Milk Crate director, and she took over the directing of the gigs as well. And she started changing the format too and introducing more other styles of improvised shows. And then when Beck Ronson came on later, she did that as well. But Margie got the first grants from the Australia Council to do some different types of work.
That whole thing of, it started as this little heart project of Darlinghurst Theatre, and then I was the first director, and the whole thing, I feel like if I left something behind me, it was the fact that I saw it as a community cultural development project, and that hadn't really, I knew that there was funding for it. Like, I knew that Milk Crate sat very much in that space at the time, and we got the funding, you know. And I went hard to get that funding. Like, I invited them all, I lobbied the people on the panel, and we didn't get it the first time I applied, and we did the second time, and it was the first major chunk of money that Milk Crate had, which then I also took it out of Edward Eager Lodge. I went into Matthew Talbot's and other spaces. Like, I felt like we needed to open up and not just have it in that one place.
You know, one of the things that has made me grow or helped me to grow is not knowing what to expect. Is every let's say workshop is different. Every show is different. Even if you're doing a show and it's going on each, you know, for a number of days, whatever, it's going to be really different every day, every night. It's just having to kind of be really chilled and going into it with, okay, I don't know what's going to happen now, but okay, this is happening.
there isn't the feeling of us and them or sympathy or patronize. Like, I think good art will make an audience respect the people who are on stage and hear their stories from a place of respect and seeing something of themselves or in the work. So I think that is really important, and I think everything that I've seen Milk Crate do has had that element to it.
It's simple. It's just about a voice for a community which doesn't have the opportunity. You know, in those days, that's what we were trying to do. We were trying to tell the neighbours that this is, you know, what's going on over here is very human, and these are people struggling, you know, trying to get through life just like you are. Maybe, you know, maybe you could identify, maybe you could hear what these people have to say, maybe you could try and understand, maybe you could empathise.
Because there's an inherent magic in theatre that is a moment in time that cannot be replicated. You can't replicate that. You can film it all you like, you can do anything you want, you can take photographs of it, but if you weren't there at the time and see it and feel it, you know, having something live and breathe in front of you is incredible.
You think about theatre as well, I find it really exclusive. You know what I mean? Like mainstream theatre is really exclusive. Like you sit in the dark and you have to pay a shitload for a ticket anyway. And it's part of that sort of paradigm of like where we have to be a certain way, we have to look a certain way, we have to live a certain way. And when you're on the outside of that, that's where the marginalisation occurs, right?
I do think it's really important that the community still has a sense of ownership of the work, and that's always like that. I would hope that you can always see that in the work, that it's not an artist only, that artists and community are separate, but that they work, it's like people working together. Yeah, it's fulfilling to see that it's gone in good hands, you know, it's been looked after, and now it's with a great team of people, and hopefully it'll keep going forever.